I'm Clara Johnson, and I've been preparing for war all week. Not the kind with bullets and bombs, but the corporate battlefield where environmental destruction masquerades as progress. My blonde hair catches the harsh conference room lighting as I spread documents across the mahogany table, each page representing another species pushed toward extinction by Memphis's industrial giants. 3 corporations down by spring, I whisper to my reflection in the window. No prisoners. The Memphis Environmental Summit happens once a year, and this time, I'm bringing ammunition that could shut down half the city's logging operations. My blue eyes scan the aggressive propositions I've crafted, each one designed to corner the corporate wolves who've been devouring our wilderness. The auditorium buzzes with nervous energy when I arrive. Activists cluster near coffee stations while corporate representatives huddle in expensive suits, their faces already defensive. I've made enemies of powerful people, but someone has to speak for the trees that can't defend themselves. Ms. Johnson? A brunette approaches, her green eyes sharp with intelligence. I'm Dr. Sadie Smith, Wildlife Protection Specialist. She's younger than me, maybe 29, with shoulder-length brown hair that frames delicate features. But there's steel beneath her composed exterior, something dangerous in the way she carries herself. Dr. Smith, I've heard about your work with endangered species recovery. All good things, I hope. The debate moderator calls us to our positions, and suddenly we're facing off across the stage like gunfighters at high noon. The topic, aggressive conservation versus scientific methodology. I expect support from a fellow conservationist. I'm wrong. Ms. Johnson's proposals are emotionally driven fantasy, Sadie declares, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Shutting down entire industries overnight creates economic chaos without guaranteed environmental benefits. My jaw tightens. Dr. Smith prefers studying problems while forests disappear. Sometimes you have to choose between corporate feelings and planetary survival. The audience shifts restlessly as our verbal sparring intensifies. Sadie's scientific precision clashes with my passionate activism, each exchange raising the temperature in the room. She argues for gradual reform while I demand immediate action. Incremental change is corporate stalling, I snap, leaning forward. How many species go extinct while we wait for your peer-reviewed solutions? How many jobs disappear when environmental terrorism masquerades as activism? She counters, her green eyes flashing. The moderator struggles to maintain control as applause erupts from different sections. Corporate representatives cheer Sadie's measured approach while environmental activists rally behind my aggressive stance. But something else is happening beneath the surface, an electric tension that has nothing to do with policy disagreements. Sadie's intelligent arguments challenge assumptions I've held for years, forcing me to defend positions I've never questioned. Her expertise is undeniable, her passion genuine despite our tactical differences. When she speaks about wildlife recovery programs, her voice softens with genuine care for creatures most people never consider. The debate concludes with no clear victor, both sides claiming victory while avoiding the real questions. As the audience disperses, I find myself walking toward Sadie instead of away. I begin, then stop, unsure how to finish. Intense, she completes, gathering her notes. You're not what I expected. Meaning? Most activists I meet are all emotion, no substance. You actually understand the science behind your proposals. She pauses, studying my face with those penetrating green eyes. Even when they're completely wrong. Despite myself, I laugh. Want to continue this over coffee? I promise not to accuse you of corporate conspiracy. Only if you promise to listen when I explain why gradual change actually works. Deal. As we walk toward the exit together, I catch corporate representatives watching nervously. They expected us to remain divided, environmental infighting serving their interests. Instead, they're witnessing something they didn't anticipate. 2 formidable women finding common ground. The winter wind hits us as we step outside, Memphis's industrial skyline stretching before us like a concrete challenge. Neither of us knows that this chance encounter will reshape both our lives forever. The coffee shop buzzes around us, but I'm focused entirely on Sadie's animated explanation of wildlife corridor restoration. Her green eyes light up when she describes how strategic habitat connections can save entire species populations without massive economic disruption. You're suggesting corporate cooperation instead of corporate destruction, I say, stirring my cappuccino. That's naive optimism. And you're suggesting environmental warfare instead of strategic alliance building. That's counterproductive idealism. 3 hours pass like minutes. Our debate continues over dinner at a quiet bistro downtown, winter darkness settling over Memphis while we dissect each other's methodologies. Sadie's scientific background provides framework for arguments I've been making instinctively for years. Your passion drives results, she admits, cutting into her salmon. My organization studied your coalition's victories. 12 corporate policy changes in 2 years is unprecedented. Your research provides legitimacy my passion lacks. Corporate lawyers can't dispute peer-reviewed studies the way they dismiss activist demands. Something shifts between us as we acknowledge each other's strengths. The intellectual sparring softens into genuine curiosity about the woman across the table. Sadie's laugh is surprisingly rich, her smile transforming her serious features into something warm and approachable. Tell me something not in your professional biography, I request. I wanted to be a veterinarian until I realized I cared more about preventing animal suffering than treating it after the fact. She pauses, studying my face. What about you? What made Clara Johnson declare war on corporate America? Childhood camping trip with my grandmother. Returned 5 years later to find the entire forest clear-cut for a shopping mall. The memory still stings. Grandmother cried seeing those ancient trees reduced to stumps. I decided someone needed to fight back. That explains the righteous fury in your debate style. You mean my emotional terrorism approach? I mean your unwillingness to compromise when lives are at stake. The compliment catches me off guard, delivered with such sincerity it dissolves my defensive posture. Sadie sees past my aggressive reputation to understand the genuine care driving my activism. Few people bother looking that deep. Walking her to her car afterward, Memphis streetlights casting shadows between us, I realize I don't want this evening to end. Sadie's intellectual challenge has awakened something I didn't know I was missing, someone who matches my intensity without sharing my methods. This was unexpected, she says, keys jingling in her hand. The dinner? Or the fact that we didn't kill each other during dessert? Both. She steps closer, and I catch her subtle perfume mixing with the winter air. I keep thinking about your forest story, the way your voice changed when you mentioned your grandmother. I keep thinking about your wildlife corridor research, the possibility that corporate cooperation might actually work. We're standing too close for casual professional discussion, our breath visible in the cold air between us. Sadie's green eyes search my face with scientific curiosity that feels deeply personal. Clara? My name on her lips sounds different than when colleagues use it, softer somehow. Before I can analyze the implications, she reaches up to brush snow from my shoulder, her fingers lingering against the wool of my coat. The contact sends warmth through me despite the winter air. I find myself leaning slightly toward her touch, drawn by something beyond intellectual attraction. Her hand remains on my shoulder, thumb tracing a small pattern against the fabric. We should probably... She begins, but doesn't finish the thought. Instead, she rises on her toes and presses her lips to mine, gentle and questioning. The kiss tastes like wine and possibility, lasting only seconds but changing everything between us. When she pulls back, her cheeks are flushed from more than just cold. I should go, she whispers, but makes no move toward her car. You should, I agree, but step closer instead of away. Her lips find mine again, more certain this time, and I respond without thinking about professional boundaries or political differences. Her kiss awakens hunger I've been ignoring for months, focused entirely on environmental battles while neglecting personal needs. This complicates things, I murmur against her mouth. Everything worthwhile is complicated. She finally steps back, creating space between us that feels like loss. Her fingers touch her lips briefly, as if confirming what just happened was real. Same time tomorrow? She asks, unlocking her car. Are we having another debate? We're having dinner. Everything else remains to be determined. Watching her drive away, I realize the evening changed more than tactical approaches to environmental protection. Sadie Smith represents possibility I hadn't considered. Someone who challenges my methods while sharing my values, someone whose intelligence matches my passion. The corporate representatives who watched us leave together had good reason for concern. They expected division between environmental factions, but instead they're witnessing alliance formation that threatens more than their quarterly profits. 2 weeks of dinners and strategic discussions have led us here. Crouched in my Jeep at dawn, watching illegal logging trucks disappear into protected Mississippi River Delta wetlands. Sadie adjusts her binoculars, documenting license plates and equipment specifications with scientific precision. Third convoy this week, she whispers, making notes. They're accelerating operations before the federal inspection next month. Which means we document everything today or lose the evidence forever. I grab my camera with telephoto lens, ready for some trespassing. Professional misconduct is my middle name. Her dry humor masks genuine nervousness. Sadie's research background didn't prepare her for covert fieldwork, but her wildlife expertise makes her invaluable for identifying endangered species being displaced. We slip through morning mist into ancient cypress groves, following tire tracks deeper into protected habitat. The contrast between pristine wilderness and industrial destruction becomes stark as we approach the illegal operation. Jesus, Sadie breathes, staring at clear-cut devastation. They've destroyed 15 acres in 3 days. Massive trees lie scattered like fallen giants while heavy machinery tears through centuries-old growth. The sound of chainsaws echoes through morning silence, each rev representing decades of growth reduced to lumber. Document everything, I direct. Photographing serial numbers on equipment. Species inventory first, then ecological damage assessment. Sadie moves with unexpected grace through difficult terrain, her brunette hair caught back efficiently while she catalogs destroyed habitat. Her green eyes reflect genuine grief witnessing such devastation, but her scientific training keeps her focused on evidence gathering. Rare orchid colony completely eliminated, she reports quietly. Endangered woodpecker nesting sites destroyed. This represents 60% habitat loss for local populations. We work in coordinated silence, covering more ground together than either could manage alone. My activist training combines perfectly with her scientific methodology, creating documentation that corporate lawyers can't dismiss. A diesel engine approaching forces us to dive behind fallen logs, hearts pounding as a security patrol passes within 20 feet. Sadie's warm body presses against mine in our hiding spot, her breath shallow with adrenaline. Too close, I whisper against her ear. Way too close. But she doesn't move away immediately. Our eyes meet in the dim morning light, filtering through destroyed canopy, professional partnership shifting into something more dangerous. The shared risk has awakened awareness of each other that goes beyond environmental collaboration. More vehicles approach, forcing us to abandon our hiding spot for deeper wilderness. We retreat through increasingly difficult terrain as search patterns intensify. Corporate security clearly alert to environmental activists documenting illegal activities. Cabin ahead, Sadie points to a weathered structure barely visible through trees. The abandoned hunting cabin offers perfect concealment as security teams sweep the area methodically. We slip inside just as searchlights begin probing our previous location. They know we're here, I observe, watching flashlight beams through dirty windows. Professional hazard of environmental activism. The cabin contains basic furniture covered in dust, evidence of recent use by hunters or squatters. Sadie checks her equipment while I monitor security movement outside, both of us aware we're trapped until the search concludes. Could be hours before they give up, she says, settling onto a wooden bench. Worse places to be stuck. Confined space and shared danger create intimacy neither of us expected. Our successful morning collaboration proved we work well together beyond dinner conversations and intellectual debates. You're different than your reputation suggests, Sadie observes. Meaning? Corporate media portrays you as reckless and emotional. Today you've been methodical and strategic. Maybe I'm both. I sit beside her on the narrow bench. What about you? Wildlife protection specialist sounds safely academic until you're sneaking through illegal logging operations. Everything I care about is being destroyed while bureaucrats debate policy details. Sometimes you have to choose direct action over proper procedure. Her admission reveals the activist hiding beneath scientific professionalism. Sadie's passion matches mine despite our different approaches, and shared values become obvious when corporate destruction threatens what we protect. The silence stretches comfortably between us, until her hand finds mine on the bench. No words accompany the contact, just quiet acknowledgement of connection deepening beyond professional partnership. Clara. My name carries weight when she speaks it, loaded with implications neither of us has voiced directly. Her thumb traces circles against my palm, gentle contact that sends awareness through me. This changes things. Everything worthwhile changes things. She leans closer, and I meet her halfway without hesitation. Our second kiss tastes of morning mist and shared purpose, deeper than the tentative exploration outside her car 2 weeks ago. Her lips move against mine with growing confidence as my arms circle her shoulders. The kiss becomes longer, more urgent, fueled by adrenaline and genuine attraction. Her hands frame my face while mine discover the soft warmth of her neck beneath her hair. Outside, security teams continue searching, but inside the cabin exists only growing heat between us. When we finally separate, both breathing harder, her green eyes are dark with want. We should focus on getting out of here safely, she whispers. We should, I agree, but neither of us moves apart. The search vehicles eventually retreat, leaving us alone in morning sunshine. But something fundamental has shifted during our hours of confinement. Professional alliance has evolved into personal connection that threatens to complicate everything we're trying to accomplish. 3 months after our first covert mission, the Memphis Environmental Coalition occupies half the 3rd floor of the Peabody building. Sadie's Wildlife Protection Alliance merged with my organization last week, creating the most formidable environmental force in Tennessee history. Corporate response has been swift and predictable, I announced to our combined staff. 3 lawsuit threats, 2 intimidation attempts, and 1 bribery offer disguised as consulting fees. Everyone laughs except Sadie, who's studying quarterly damage reports with characteristic intensity. Her brunette hair catches afternoon sunlight streaming through conference room windows as she calculates species displacement statistics. Habitat destruction accelerated 30% since we began operations, she reports. They're racing to eliminate evidence before our federal lawsuit proceeds. Our evening strategy sessions have become routine, but tonight feels different. We're alone in the office, city lights reflecting off polished conference tables while we review 3 years of accumulated environmental crimes. Testimony depositions begin next week, I say, spreading legal documents across mahogany surfaces. 23 corporate executives, 14 government officials, and 6 independent scientific experts. Our evidence is bulletproof, Sadie confirms, cross-referencing damaged ecosystem reports, species extinction rates, water contamination levels, illegal logging documentation, everything necessary to destroy their defense strategy. Professional collaboration has evolved into something deeper during long nights preparing our case. Shared purpose created intellectual intimacy that gradually became personal attraction neither of us pretends to ignore anymore. We make a formidable team, I observe, watching her organize evidence with scientific precision. Terrifying combination of your aggressive tactics and my research methodology. She moves closer to examine my legal strategy notes, her shoulder brushing mine as we lean over the conference table. The contact sends familiar warmth through me, awareness that's been building for weeks. Clara. Something in her voice makes me look up from the documents. Her green eyes search my face with scientific curiosity that's become intensely personal during our months working together. Yes? Are we going to keep pretending this is purely professional partnership? The question hangs between us in the quiet office. City traffic humming distantly through thick windows. 3 months of careful boundaries and professional restraint suddenly feels exhausting. What are you suggesting? Instead of answering directly, she reaches up to touch my face, fingers tracing my jawline with gentle certainty. Her thumb brushes across my lips, and I catch it briefly between my teeth. I'm suggesting we stop fighting what's been obvious since that cabin in the woods. Her lips find mine before I can respond, soft and questioning at first, then deeper as I respond without hesitation. This kiss tastes different than our previous stolen moments, weighted with months of growing connection and shared purpose. My arms circle her waist as she presses closer, legal documents forgotten beneath us on the polished table. Her hands tangle in my blonde hair while mine explore the elegant curve of her neck. Your apartment or mine? She whispers against my mouth. Mine's closer. We manage to maintain professional composure in the elevator, but barely. Her fingers trace patterns against my palm, while I struggle to focus on anything except the woman beside me, and what's about to happen between us. My apartment reflects utilitarian priorities, functional furniture, environmental posters, and law books stacked everywhere. But Sadie moves through the space like she belongs there, examining my personal photographs with genuine interest. Your grandmother? She asks, studying a framed picture. The camping trip I mentioned. Last photo before the forest was destroyed. She looks like you. Same determined expression. Same stubborn refusal to compromise when something matters. Sadie sets down the photograph and turns to face me, evening shadows softening her features. The moment feels significant, poised between friendship and something transformative. This changes everything, she says simply. I know. Our professional relationship, the lawsuit, public perception of the coalition. I know. And you're willing to risk all of that? Instead of answering with words, I cross the space between us and kiss her with months of suppressed longing. Her response is immediate and heated, hands pulling me closer while mine discover the soft warmth beneath her silk blouse. We move toward my bedroom without breaking the kiss, shedding professional restraint along with corporate blazers and practical shoes. Her skin is warm beneath my hands as we fall together onto my bed, months of intellectual partnership finally becoming physical connection. Her mouth explores my neck, while my fingers trace the elegant line of her spine. We discover each other with careful urgency, taking time to map new territory while surrendering to want we've been denying for months. Her touch ignites responses I'd forgotten were possible, focused entirely on environmental battles while neglecting personal needs. Later, lying tangled in sheets with Memphis city lights painting patterns across our skin, reality begins reasserting itself. Her head rests on my shoulder, while I trace lazy circles against her back. No regrets? I ask quietly. None. You? Best strategic decision we've made yet. She laughs, the sound vibrating against my chest. Adding personal complications to professional partnership right before the biggest lawsuit of our careers. Timing has never been my strong suit. But lying here with Sadie warm against me, her breathing gradually steadying toward sleep, the timing feels perfect despite its professional inconvenience. Our connection gives new meaning to the environmental battle we're fighting together. 6 months of legal preparation culminated in tomorrow's courthouse filing. Federal environmental crimes carrying penalties that could shut down Memphis's 3 largest industrial polluters permanently. Sadie and I have spent weeks rehearsing testimony, organizing evidence that took years to gather. Final witness depositions confirmed, I announce, checking our case timeline. 12 corporate executives, 8 government officials, 14 scientific experts, everything necessary to prove systematic environmental destruction. Water contamination data, illegal dumping documentation, endangered species displacement records, Sadie adds, reviewing her environmental impact reports. 3 years of evidence that corporate lawyers cannot dispute or dismiss. We work side by side in the coalition office, documents spread across every available surface. Tomorrow represents victory for everything we've fought to protect, vindication of methods that corporate interests called extremist and naive. After tomorrow, environmental protection becomes legally enforceable rather than activist suggestion, I continue, imagining corporate executives facing real consequences. Habitat destruction carries criminal penalties, not just regulatory fines. Sadie nods absently, but something in her posture seems different tonight. Her usual focused intensity appears strained, green eyes avoiding direct contact while she organizes scientific testimony. The Alaska Institute called again, she says quietly, not looking up from her papers. I stop reviewing legal documents. What did you tell them? Same thing I've told them for 3 weeks. I'm committed to seeing this case through completion. The Alaska Marine Research Institute offered Sadie their lead scientist position 2 months ago. Prestigious appointment, unlimited research funding, Opportunity to work with the world's leading marine biologists. She's mentioned it casually, several times without indicating serious consideration. But? I prompt, sensing hesitation behind her diplomatic response. But they need an answer by tomorrow morning. Final decision before their board meeting next week. My stomach drops. Tomorrow morning means choosing between our lawsuit victory and her career opportunity, between Memphis and Alaska, between us and her professional future. That's convenient timing. Clara, this represents everything I've worked toward professionally. Marine ecosystem research, direct species protection, government funding without corporate interference. 6 months ago you said corporate cooperation was more effective than aggressive activism. Now you're abandoning our coalition for institutional research? She finally meets my eyes, and I see conflict there that makes my chest tighten. I'm not abandoning anything, but opportunities like Alaska don't come twice in environmental science careers. Opportunities like this lawsuit don't come twice either. 3 years of evidence, perfect legal strategy, corporate executives finally facing consequences for environmental destruction. We're standing on opposite sides of the conference table, documents scattered between us like battlefield debris. 6 months of partnership, 3 months of deeper connection, and she's considering walking away on the eve of our greatest victory. You don't understand the pressure I'm facing, she says, organizing papers with unnecessary precision. Professional colleagues questioning my association with aggressive activism instead of institutional research. Your professional colleagues aren't fighting for endangered species survival. They're publishing research, while forests disappear and waterways die. And your coalition destroys corporate relationships that could fund long-term conservation programs. The argument feels familiar but wrong, echoing our first debate but lacking the intellectual excitement that originally drew us together. Now it carries personal weight that makes every word potentially devastating. Is this about professional pressure or personal fear? I ask directly. What's that supposed to mean? Maybe Alaska represents escape from complications you didn't expect when you joined my coalition. Her face flushes, but whether from anger or embarrassment isn't clear. Our relationship has nothing to do with professional decisions. Our relationship has everything to do with professional decisions. Personal partnerships complicate strategic thinking, create emotional investment where logic should prevail. You think I'm making emotional decisions instead of rational career choices? I think you're scared of what we've built together, professionally and personally. Alaska represents safety from risks you weren't prepared to take. The accusation hangs between us in the quiet office, city lights reflecting off polished surfaces while we stare at each other across 3 feet of space that feels like miles. Maybe I am scared, she admits finally. Professional reputation, personal relationships, legal consequences if our case fails. Everything I care about dependent on victory that isn't guaranteed. Victory is never guaranteed. But defeat is certain if you abandon the fight before it concludes. And if I stay? What happens after the lawsuit, assuming we win? Do we continue professional partnership or acknowledge personal complications make ongoing collaboration impossible? The question reveals fears we've both avoided addressing. Professional success could mean personal relationship failure if working together becomes unsustainable after intimate boundaries disappeared. I don't know, I admit honestly. But I know Alaska eliminates those possibilities instead of exploring them. She moves around the table toward me, her professional mask slipping to reveal genuine vulnerability. Her hands find mine, fingers intertwining while she searches my face. I never expected to care about someone the way I care about you, she whispers. Professional partnership became personal connection I wasn't prepared for. Neither was I. But that doesn't make it wrong. It makes it complicated. Everything worthwhile is complicated. She smiles at the echo of words she spoke months ago, but the expression doesn't reach her eyes. Her thumb traces circles against my palm, familiar gesture that now carries weight of potential goodbye. The Alaska position starts next month. If I'm going to accept, I need to provide answer tonight. And if you decline, then I'm choosing you over career advancement, choosing us over professional security. The weight of her decision settles between us, 6 months of building something neither expected, culminating in choice that determines whether our connection survives or becomes memory. I wake up alone to an empty office that still smells like her perfume and abandoned dreams. The lawsuit documents remain scattered across the conference table exactly where we left them last night, but Sadie's research files have disappeared along with her decision to stay. The voicemail on my phone confirms what I already know, Clara. I'm sorry. Alaska called this morning with final ultimatum. I'm catching the evening flight to Anchorage. Good luck with the case. 3 weeks later, I'm fumbling our opening arguments in federal court. Without Sadie's scientific expertise, corporate lawyers are dismantling environmental impact testimony piece by piece. The judge looks skeptical when I present habitat destruction evidence without wildlife protection specialist to corroborate findings. Ms. Johnson, where is Dr. Smith's accompanying research data? Judge Harrison inquires. Unfortunately, Dr. Smith accepted a position with the Alaska Marine Research Institute. Her replacement is reviewing case materials. The replacement wildlife consultant lacks Sadie's intimate knowledge of our evidence. 3 years of careful documentation becomes incomplete without her specialized interpretation. Corporate defense attorneys exploit every gap in scientific testimony. Your Honor, without proper wildlife expertise, this environmental impact assessment lacks credibility. Their lead counsel argues smugly. Scientific methodology requires consistent specialist oversight. He's right, damn him. Sadie's departure created exactly the weakness they've been seeking. Environmental crimes that seemed bulletproof with her testimony now appear circumstantial without specialized scientific support. My coalition staff tries maintaining optimism, but everyone recognizes the case is falling apart. Months of preparation unraveling because personal relationships interfered with professional judgment. We can still win this, my assistant Marcus insists during lunch recess. Environmental damage is obvious even without specialized interpretation. Obvious isn't legally sufficient. We need scientific proof that corporate activities directly caused species displacement and habitat destruction. Then we find another scientist. In 3 days? With intimate knowledge of our specific evidence and willingness to testify against Memphis's largest employers? The impossibility of our situation becomes clear as afternoon testimony continues. Without Sadie's expertise, our strongest evidence appears inconclusive. Corporate lawyers methodically destroy environmental claims that seemed ironclad weeks ago. Meanwhile, Alaska is killing Sadie by degrees. Her research institute emails arrive sporadically, professional updates that carefully avoid mentioning Memphis or personal relationships. Marine ecosystem research apparently provides exactly the intellectual challenge she claimed to want. Fascinating work environment, unlimited funding, world-class colleagues, she writes in one message. Everything I hoped academic research could provide. But something in her carefully neutral tone suggests Alaska isn't delivering the satisfaction she expected. Professional advancement feels hollow when separated from passionate purpose that originally drove her environmental work. The court case concludes predictably. Without specialized testimony, our lawsuit fails to prove direct corporate responsibility for environmental destruction. Habitat damage continues while we appeal to higher courts with insufficient evidence. Memphis Environmental Coalition suffers major defeat in federal environmental case, the Evening News reports. Coalition leader Clara Johnson promises appeal, but legal experts suggest case lacks scientific foundation necessary for successful prosecution. Corporate executives celebrate while protected habitats face continued destruction. 3 years of investigation reduced to legal footnote because personal complications interfered with professional strategy. Sadie calls that evening for the first time since leaving Memphis. Her voice sounds distant through connection quality that matches the emotional space between us. I heard about the court decision. I'm sorry, Clara. Are you? Because your absence helped ensure our failure. That's not fair. I provided 3 years of research before accepting Alaska position. And abandoned the fight exactly when your expertise became crucial for victory. Silence stretches between us across impossible geographic distance. Outside my apartment window, Memphis continues its industrial expansion while environmental protections lie in legal ruins. How's Alaska treating you? I ask finally, attempting civility that feels forced. Professional environment is everything I expected. Research funding, institutional support, colleagues who understand scientific methodology. But what? You sound like you're reading institutional promotional material instead of describing personal experience. Another pause, longer this time. When she speaks again, her professional mask slips slightly to reveal something that might be regret. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. Meaning marine ecosystem research lacks the immediate purpose that drew me to environmental activism. Publication deadlines and funding applications instead of species protection and habitat preservation. Academic research instead of environmental warfare. Corporate cooperation instead of aggressive activism, she continues, echoing arguments we had months ago. Everything I thought I wanted professionally. And personally? The question hangs between us through long-distance connection, weighted with months of separation and growing understanding that professional success doesn't compensate for personal loss. Personally, Alaska is beautiful and lonely. Glacial landscapes, pristine wilderness, and complete isolation from everything that mattered in Memphis. Including me? Especially you. Her admission carries pain that matches my own experience these past weeks. Professional victory lost meaning without personal connection to share it with, while personal relationships apparently lost meaning without shared professional purpose. Clara, I think I made a mistake. Which part? Leaving Memphis, abandoning our lawsuit, or choosing career advancement over personal relationships? All of it. Everything feels wrong without our partnership. Hope stirs in my chest despite months of angry disappointment. What are you saying? I'm saying Alaska was an escape from complications I wasn't ready to handle. But those complications were also everything that made environmental work meaningful. And now? Now I'm surrounded by professional colleagues who don't share my passion for immediate species protection. Research for research's sake instead of research for environmental change. 2 weeks after Sadie's phone call admission, I'm sitting in my apartment reviewing failed appeal documents when my door buzzer sounds at midnight. Through the intercom, a familiar voice cuts through static. Clara, it's me. We need to talk. She stands in my doorway looking exhausted, brunette hair disheveled from travel, green eyes carrying urgency I haven't seen since our covert missions months ago. Her Alaska parka seems out of place in Memphis autumn warmth. Sadie? What are you doing here? I caught the first flight after receiving these. She hands me a manila envelope marked with corporate letterhead I recognize. Inside, photographs show Sadie leaving her Anchorage hotel, entering her research facility, and meeting with colleagues. Professional surveillance that makes my blood run cold. Someone's been watching you? For weeks, apparently. Anonymous package delivered to my apartment yesterday with note suggesting my Memphis connections pose career threats. What kind of threats? Professional sabotage, funding withdrawal, termination from Alaska position. Standard corporate intimidation tactics except they're targeting me in Alaska for work I did in Memphis. I study the photographs more carefully, recognizing professional surveillance techniques. This isn't random intimidation. Someone specifically targeted you to weaken our environmental coalition. That's what I thought until I found this. She produces a second envelope containing photographs of me entering the courthouse, meeting with legal counsel, and working late in our coalition office. Recent images from weeks after she left Memphis. They're still watching both of us, I realize, pieces clicking together. Separate surveillance operations coordinated to keep us apart. The Alaska job offer came with unusual timing, right before our lawsuit filing, with impossible deadlines requiring immediate response. And your research colleagues questioning your Memphis connections suddenly appeared after I accepted the position. Professional pressure that didn't exist during initial negotiations. We spread the photographs across my coffee table like puzzle pieces revealing larger conspiracy. Corporate interests didn't just oppose our environmental lawsuit, they actively manipulated our personal relationship to ensure its failure. They knew our partnership was crucial to legal success. I continue analyzing the evidence. Separate us personally and professionally destroy case credibility. Alaska position was too good to be true because it was bait. Perfect opportunity designed to remove me from Memphis exactly when testimony became critical. Anger builds as manipulation becomes obvious. Corporate lawyers couldn't defeat our evidence directly, so they engineered relationship conflict that accomplished their goals indirectly. Professional sabotage disguised as career advancement, Sadie says bitterly. I chose Alaska thinking it protected my future. But it was trap designed to destroy our environmental coalition. And I let personal hurt over your departure interfere with recognizing deliberate manipulation. The phone rings, interrupting our analysis. Unknown number, but I answer anyway, suspicious of any contact during this late-night revelation. Ms. Johnson? This is Dr. Reynolds from Alaska Marine Research Institute, Dr. Smith's supervisor. Sadie's eyes widen when she hears her supervisor's name. I activate speakerphone so we both hear the conversation. Dr. Reynolds, what can I do for you? I'm calling to inform you that Dr. Smith's employment may be impacted by her Memphis environmental activities. Recent concerns about professional associations affecting institutional reputation. What concerns specifically? Aggressive activism, legal controversies, personal relationships that compromise scientific objectivity. Alaska Institute maintains strict professional standards for our research staff. The threat is barely concealed. Sadie's job depends on severing connections with Memphis environmental work, and with me personally. Dr. Smith's research expertise is impeccable. I respond carefully. Her wildlife protection work represents the highest environmental science standards. Perhaps. But institutional pressure suggests Dr. Smith choose between Alaska career and Memphis complications. The call ends abruptly, leaving us staring at each other across evidence of systematic manipulation designed to destroy both our professional and personal partnership. They're not finished, Sadie says quietly. Alaska was extraction strategy, and now they're applying pressure to keep me away permanently, which means returning to Memphis puts your career at serious risk. And staying in Alaska means they've successfully neutralized me as environmental threat. The corporate strategy becomes clear. Isolate effective environmental activists by creating impossible choices between career survival and purposeful work. We need proof of coordination, I declare, gathering surveillance photographs. Separate intimidation campaigns suggest organized effort to manipulate our relationship. How do we prove corporate conspiracy without additional evidence? We don't need to prove it, we need to defeat it. Sadie studies my face, recognizing determination that originally attracted her to my environmental work. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting you return to Alaska tomorrow and continue your research position normally while I investigate these surveillance operations. That's exactly what they want. Continued separation with me, safely isolated in Alaska. Until we identify who's coordinating these intimidation campaigns and expose their manipulation publicly. I move closer to her on the couch, our knees touching while we examine photographs spread between us. Despite months of separation, proximity still generates awareness that transcends professional partnership. Clara, I made a mistake leaving Memphis. You made a decision based on incomplete information. Corporate manipulation ensured you couldn't make fully informed choice. No, I made a mistake because I chose professional security over personal connection that meant everything to me. Her admission hangs between us, weighted with months of regret and growing understanding of what our relationship represented beyond environmental collaboration. Sadie. I love you, Clara. That's what I've been trying to avoid saying for months. Professional justifications and career considerations were excuses to avoid admitting I fell in love with someone whose work makes normal relationships impossible. Her confession breaks through defensive barriers I've maintained since she left Memphis. Despite corporate manipulation and professional complications, what developed between us was real and worth fighting to protect. I love you too, I respond simply, which is why watching you choose Alaska over Memphis nearly destroyed me. She reaches for my hands, fingers intertwining while green eyes search my face. Can we try again? Despite corporate pressure and professional complications? Instead of answering with words, I lean forward and kiss her with months of suppressed longing. Her response is immediate and hungry. hands pulling me closer while we rediscover connection that survived separation and manipulation. 3 days after discovering corporate surveillance evidence, Sadie officially requests emergency leave from Alaska Marine Research Institute. Her supervisor's response arrives within hours: immediate termination for breach of professional conduct standards. "They didn't even wait for me to return," she says, reading the dismissal email on my laptop. "Terminated via electronic communication for maintaining unauthorized Memphis contacts," which confirms coordination between Alaska Institute and Memphis corporate interests, I observe, documenting the timeline. Professional retaliation for investigating environmental crimes. We're rebuilding our case with new evidence of corporate conspiracy, but this time we're working as partners, instead of allowing manipulation to divide us. My apartment has become command center for Environmental Coalition revival. Legal documents cover every surface, while surveillance photographs provide evidence of systematic intimidation campaigns designed to silence environmental activism. Marcus traced the surveillance company I report, reviewing investigative findings. Corporate security firm hired by Memphis Industrial Coalition specifically to monitor environmental activists. The same industrial coalition our original lawsuit targeted for environmental crimes. Which means they've been coordinating legal defense strategy with personal relationship manipulation from the beginning. Sadie moves behind my chair, her hands finding my shoulders as she reads over my shoulder. Physical contact feels rediscovered after months of separation, familiar intimacy that survived corporate interference. Evidence suggests systematic campaign to neutralize environmental threats through personal disruption, rather than direct legal confrontation, she continues, massaging tension from my neck. Separate environmental partners, eliminate collaborative effectiveness, destroy legal credibility through professional isolation. Her touch awakens awareness that transcends case analysis. 3 months of separation followed by 3 days of intensive collaboration have intensified attraction that originally developed during covert missions. We need media exposure, I decide, leaning back against her touch. Corporate conspiracy story that exposes manipulation tactics while rebuilding credibility for environmental coalition. Environmental activists targeted by corporate surveillance and career sabotage. Personal relationships destroyed to prevent professional collaboration. Exactly. Turn their manipulation strategy into public relations disaster. She leans down to kiss the top of my head, casual affection that signals relationship repair alongside professional partnership restoration. Memphis environmental reporter contacted me yesterday, she mentions, interested in Alaska termination story, especially if connected to environmental activism. Perfect timing for coordinated media strategy. Evening arrives while we prepare press materials, combining surveillance evidence with environmental crime documentation to create comprehensive exposé of corporate manipulation tactics. Interview scheduled for tomorrow morning, I confirm, closing my laptop. Environmental Coalition rebuilding story with corporate conspiracy angle. Professional partnership restored despite systematic interference. And personal relationship? The question carries weight that transcends media strategy. 3 days of working together rebuilt collaborative effectiveness, but emotional trust requires deliberate reconstruction after months of separation and hurt. Personal relationship needs attention beyond professional partnership repair, she admits, moving around my chair to face me directly. Meaning? Meaning I want to rebuild what we lost when I chose Alaska over Memphis. But I also understand if professional partnership is all you're willing to risk again. Her vulnerability matches my own conflicted feelings. Working together feels natural despite corporate interference, but emotional investment requires courage neither of us possessed months ago. Instead of answering immediately, I stand and frame her face with my hands, studying green eyes that reflect genuine regret alongside renewed hope. I missed you, I say simply. Every day, every strategy session, every small victory that felt meaningless without someone who understood why environmental work matters. I missed Memphis. Alaska research felt purposeless without immediate species protection goals. And me specifically? Especially you. Professional accomplishment lost meaning without personal connection to share it with. Our kiss begins gently but deepens quickly, months of separation dissolving into renewed passion. Her hands tangle in my hair while mine explore familiar territory rediscovered after too much absence. Bedroom? I whisper against her mouth. Yes. We move together through my apartment, shedding professional restraint, along with corporate blazers and practical shoes. Our rediscovered intimacy carries weight of relationship survived, despite systematic interference. Her touch maps familiar territory with reverent attention, relearning responses that separation couldn't completely erase. I discover new confidence in her caresses, Alaska experience translating into physical certainty that wasn't present during our earlier connection. We take time exploring each other again, careful attention to pleasure that rebuilds emotional intimacy alongside physical reconnection. Her mouth traces patterns against my skin, while my hands discover she's learned exactly how to make me respond. Later, tangled together in sheets with Memphis city lights painting patterns across our skin, professional concerns temporarily forgotten in favor of personal reconnection. No regrets this time? I ask quietly. Only that we let corporate manipulations separate us for months, instead of recognizing conspiracy earlier. And Alaska? Alaska taught me that professional advancement means nothing without purposeful work and personal connection. She traces lazy circles against my shoulder while I consider implications of relationship rebuilt, despite systematic interference. Corporate interests will continue targeting us personally to weaken environmental coalition effectiveness, I observe. Probably. But now we recognize manipulation tactics instead of falling victim to relationship sabotage. Professional partnership and personal relationship despite corporate pressure. Stronger because we survived systematic interference. Outside, Memphis continues its industrial expansion, while environmental protections remain vulnerable to corporate influence. But inside my apartment, surrounded by evidence of conspiracy designed to divide us, personal and professional partnership feels capable of confronting whatever challenges corporate interests create next. Tomorrow we expose their manipulation strategy publicly, I continue, planning media campaign that will rebuild coalition credibility. Environmental activism strengthened by corporate conspiracy revelation. And tonight? Tonight we celebrate relationship survival despite systematic interference. Her laugh vibrates against my chest as she pulls me closer, personal connection restored alongside professional collaboration that corporate interests tried desperately to destroy. 6 months after exposing corporate surveillance conspiracy, Sadie and I stand before federal Judge Harrison with evidence that finally sticks. The Memphis environmental reporter investigation triggered nationwide scrutiny of corporate environmental crimes and relationship manipulation tactics. Memphis Industrial Coalition used systematic surveillance and career sabotage to prevent environmental testimony, I declared during opening statements. Corporate conspiracy designed to silence scientific expertise through personal relationship destruction. Our rebuilt case includes surveillance photographs, employment termination documentation, and audio recordings of intimidation calls. Corporate lawyers cannot dismiss evidence of deliberate manipulation designed to weaken environmental protection efforts. Dr. Smith's Alaska termination created public awareness of corporate tactics targeting environmental scientists. Sadie testifies, her expert witness credentials stronger than ever. Professional retaliation for environmental activism represents systematic threat to scientific independence. The courtroom is packed with environmental activists and media representatives drawn by conspiracy revelations. Corporate executives sit uncomfortably as their manipulation strategy becomes public knowledge, their intimidation tactics exposed under legal scrutiny. Corporate surveillance evidence proves deliberate interference with federal environmental lawsuit, Judge Harrison declares. Memphis Industrial Coalition faces additional charges of witness intimidation and professional sabotage. Victory tastes sweeter because we earned it together. Relationship rebuilt despite systematic corporate interference. Environmental crimes carry criminal penalties while surveillance conspiracy adds racketeering charges that could dismantle the industrial coalition entirely. Memphis Environmental Coalition receives federal recognition and expanded funding, I announced to celebrating staff members. Corporate environmental crimes now prosecuted under organized crime statutes. Our success attracts national attention from environmental organizations seeking to replicate Memphis' model. Sadie's expertise in countering corporate manipulation becomes highly requested by activists facing similar intimidation campaigns. Invitations from 12 environmental coalitions this month, she mentions, reviewing consultation requests. Everyone wants to understand how we survived corporate relationship sabotage. We survived because we recognized manipulation instead of accepting separation as inevitable. Professional partnership evolved into environmental advocacy that transcends Memphis city limits. Our coalition model demonstrates how personal relationships strengthen rather than weaken activist effectiveness when properly protected. 6 months later, the autumn Memphis sunset paints golden light across Cherokee Park as Sadie and I walk through Forest Preserve that our lawsuit helped establish. Ancient trees stand protected while waterways run clean, thanks to environmental regulations that corporate crimes can no longer circumvent. Wildlife population recovery exceeds projected restoration timelines, Sadie reports, studying tablet data. Endangered species returning to habitats that were nearly destroyed 3 years ago. Corporate compliance monitoring ensures continued environmental restoration rather than temporary public relations gestures. We've rebuilt more than professional partnership and personal relationship. Environmental protection has become systematic rather than activist legal framework that corporate interests cannot manipulate or circumvent through surveillance campaigns. Clara, there's something I want to ask you. Her tone carries weight that makes me stop walking. We're standing beside the stream where illegal dumping operations once poisoned water supplies, now running clear thanks to environmental regulations we fought years to establish. What is it? Instead of speaking immediately, Sadie reaches into her jacket pocket and produces small velvet box that makes my heart stop. Her green eyes reflect afternoon sunlight while she studies my face. Memphis Environmental Coalition succeeded because we refused to let corporate manipulation destroy partnership that makes us stronger together than separately. Sadie, professional collaboration became personal connection that survived systematic interference designed to divide us. She opens the box to reveal simple gold band with small diamond that catches forest light, engagement ring that represents commitment beyond environmental activism. I love you, Clara Johnson, environmental warrior, legal strategist, and most stubborn woman I've ever encountered. And I want to spend the rest of my life fighting corporate environmental crimes while building personal relationship that corporate surveillance cannot destroy. The proposal carries weight of everything we've survived together. Corporate manipulation, professional sabotage, relationship conflict that nearly separated us permanently before we recognized deliberate interference. Are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking you to marry me. Professional partnership and personal commitment that corporate interests cannot manipulate or destroy. Instead of answering with words, I kiss her with 3 years of shared battles and rebuilt trust. Her response is immediate and warm, arms circling me while the engagement ring box remains forgotten in her other hand. Yes. I whisper against her lips. Yes to everything. She slips the ring onto my finger while Memphis autumn surrounds us with forest preserve that exists because we refuse to let corporate manipulation destroy environmental protection or personal connection. Mrs. and Mrs. Environmental Coalition, she says, admiring the ring that catches afternoon light. Partners in environmental warfare and everything else? Later, celebrating at the downtown restaurant where we had our first dinner debate, Memphis city lights reflecting off river that runs clean, thanks to environmental regulations we established together. Wedding plans? I ask, studying engagement ring that transforms afternoon restaurant lighting into patterns across the table. Something environmentally sustainable, forest preserve location, renewable energy sources, organic local catering. Guest list limited to people who supported environmental coalition instead of corporate interests. Speaking of which, Marcus wants to coordinate media announcement. Environmental activists' marriage as symbol of relationship strength despite corporate interference. Promise me something. Anything. Promise our wedding won't become political statement about environmental activism overcoming corporate manipulation. She laughs, the sound mixing with restaurant conversation around us. Our entire relationship has been political statement about environmental activism overcoming corporate manipulation. True. But our wedding should celebrate personal connection that makes environmental activism possible. Environmental warfare strengthened by partnership that corporate surveillance couldn't destroy. Outside, Memphis continues evolving from industrial expansion toward environmental sustainability. Corporate crimes carry criminal penalties, while environmental restoration proceeds under legal protection that manipulation campaigns cannot circumvent. But inside the restaurant, surrounded by celebration of engagement that survived systematic interference, personal and professional partnership feels capable of confronting whatever environmental challenges await our continued collaboration. Forever? I ask, raising wineglass and toast. Forever, Sadie confirms, matching my gesture. Environmental coalition and personal commitment that corporate interests will never divide again.